Well, here we are, folks. Today, we're diving into the world of overpriced gadgets with a video titled, How Can I Justify Spending $10 on a Mac Studio Theory Ultra? Spoiler alert, you can, but hey, let's see if these folks can pull a rabbit out of their overpriced hat. I mean, for 10 grand, they better be serving it with a side of caviar and a personal butler. Get ready for some top-tier nonsense and justifications that'll make you question your life choices, because who doesn't want their wallet emptied faster than a frog in a drought? So grab your popcorn, or whatever you munch on while watching people make bad financial decisions, and let's jump into the swamp of tech enthusiasm. And remember, if you enjoy my grumpy rants and cynical takes, do the usual, like, subscribe, and join me in this delightful misery. Let's croak about it.
You guys just saw our income breakdown, so you know that unless you buy an awful lot of framework hoodies, I am not making back what I spent on this brand new M3 Ultra Max Studios.
The classic tale of buyer's remorse, spending a fortune on a shiny new toy only to realize it's not making you any money. It's like buying a fancy fishing rod and then discovering you can't catch a single fish. This Theory Ultra Max Studio better come with a magic wand if it's not pulling in the dough. Otherwise, it's just another overpriced paperweight.
Ultra Max Studio. So the question is, how can we possibly justify buying it? And the answer may surprise you. You see, depending on what you're using it for, the M3 Ultra Max Studio is actually, dare I say it, a good deal. Not for everyone, of course. If all you're doing is some light photo editing, you're going to be better off doing that on your phone. But if you work with AI, for instance, or if you have heavy demands when it comes to content creation, then
the classic if you have heavy demands line. It's like saying, if you're planning to run a marathon, you should probably invest in running shoes, sure? If you're churning out content like a factory, maybe this piece makes sense. But for the average Joe just trying to edit a few vacation photos, it's like using a bulldozer to plant daisies. Overkill, my friends.
Creation, then even with our configuration, which has the top spec GPU and cost us about $10,000 US, but this little puppy could end up making you a lot more than you spent. Let's take a look. After, of course, we look at the accessories. There's a power cable, and paper. And that's it. So, after that very short...
A short side quest, more like a detour into the land of overpriced accessories, a power cable and some paper, for 10 grand, I expect at least a complimentary butler to set it all up for me. This is starting to feel like a tech version of a bad joke. Where's the punchline?
Side quest, let's take a closer look at the machine itself. Starting at the front, we've got an SDXC reader as well as 2 Thunderbolt ports, and these are one of the big differentiators for the new Mac Studio, whether we're talking about the top spec M3 Ultra version that we've got here, or the lesser M4 Max version that has faster cores, but not nearly as many of them. And the reason that these are such a big deal is because now they are Thunderbolt 5.
Thunderbolt 5, sounds impressive, but let's be real. Most of us are just trying to keep our devices charged without tripping over cables. It's like they're throwing around fancy terms to distract us from the fact that we're still paying an arm and a leg for something that should just work. If I wanted to be dazzled by tech jargon, I'd read a manual.
Which, even under normal circumstances, offers up to double the performance of last-gen Thunderbolt 4 because it transitions from PCIe Gen 3 to PCIe Gen 4. That means more bandwidth for things like connected SSDs or card readers or external GPUs, at least on non-Mac machines. But it also has another trick up its sleeve. Instead of operating at 80 gigabit transmission and receive, it can actually stack it and do up to 120 gigabit transmission.
Stacking gigabits now, are we? Sounds fancy, but let's not forget, most of us just want our devices to work without a hitch. It's like saying your car can go from 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. Great, but can it get me to the grocery store without breaking down? All this tech talk is nice, but if it doesn't translate to real-world use, it's just fluff.
transmission and 40 gigabit receive in boost mode. This allows the new Mac Studio with its Thunderbolt 5 ports to drive extremely high resolution, high refresh rate displays, and a lot of them. Apple boasts it'll do up to 8 connected displays in the Ultra configuration. Now let's take a look at the back where we find, that's right, another 4 of those Thunderbolt 5 ports, allowing you to connect pretty much whatever you could possibly want.
The promise of endless connectivity, it's like saying you can fit a whole forest in your backyard. Sure, you can connect a million things, but do you really need to? Most folks just want to plug in their monitor and call it a day. All these ports are great. But if it's just going to sit there gathering dust while you use your phone for everything, what's the point?
Want, remembering of course that Thunderbolt can daisy chain so you can have up to 6 devices off of each of those 6 ports. We also get a 10 gig Ethernet connection, power input in Mickey Mouse style, 2 USB-A ports that operate at up to 5 gigabit per second, an HDMI port, as well as a headphone jack, and of course, conveniently located rear power button. We also get a nice beefy looking exhaust to go along with our nice beefy intake on the bottom. I haven't heard it in person, though I will very shortly. The labs tells me is pretty darn quiet.
Pretty darn quiet, huh? That's a relief. Nothing worse than a machine that sounds like a jet engine taking off while you're trying to work. If it's as quiet as they say, maybe it won't drown out my grumbling about the price tag. But let's be honest, if I'm spending 10 grand, it better be whispering sweet nothings while I work.
Quiet, a Kensington lock for the bottom, and that's about it. It's just a big block of aluminum. A big block of aluminum full of some very impressive specs. Let's talk speeds and feeds while I get this thing set up. The M3 Ultra SoC in here is equipped with up to 32 CPU cores. That is 8 more than Apple's last gen flagship, but perhaps more importantly than that, all 8 of the new cores are performance rather than efficiency cores.
So all performance cores, huh? That's like saying you've got a sports car with no backseat. Great for speed, but not so practical for everyday use. It sounds impressive, but if you're not using that power, it's just a flashy feature. Let's hope they've got the cooling to match. Or this thing might overheat faster than my patience with tech jargon.
Efficiency cores, meaning this thing should be a multi-threaded beast. In addition to that, we get a new 32-core neural engine that is apparently much faster than last gen. And on top of that, we get up to an 80-core GPU with up to 800 gigabytes per second of combined memory bandwidth that is shared across all of those processors. This was a really key Apple innovation in the last few years, their unified memory. Of course, fast memory is great, but when it comes to AI...
Here we go, the AI talk. It's like the tech industry's favorite buzzword these days. Fast memory is great, but if it doesn't translate into real-world applications, it's just another shiny feature. Let's see if this magic actually delivers, or if it's just smoke and mirrors to justify the price tag.
When it comes to AI, more memory is in some cases more important, and that is where this thing is really appealing to AI developers. It can be equipped with up to 512 gigabytes of LPDDR5 memory. That means that compared to last gen, which topped out at 192, we can run much larger AI models. And that ignores the fact that the hardware is faster, allowing us to run them in a more performant manner. Of course, it's not all for AI. Apple loaded the M3 Ultra up with a new media engine.
A new media engine, now we're talking. If it actually enhances video processing and makes editing smoother, that could be a game changer. But let's not forget, if it's just another gimmick to sell more units, I'll be rolling my eyes harder than a toad in a rainstorm. Let's see if this engine can actually deliver on its promises.
Media engine that they claim supports up to 24 streams of ProRes playback, in addition to supporting hardware encode and decode of many of the most popular formats, including AV1 decoding. Note that I said AV1 decoding though. One major omission is that Apple's SoCs still do not support AV1 encoding, and this is true of both the M3 Ultra configuration as well as the M4 Max configuration. Either way, these machines are going to be Photoshop machines, huh? That's a bold claim. If these gadgets can handle heavy-duty editing without breaking a sweat, then maybe they're worth the hype. But if they can't even keep up with basic tasks without hiccups, it's just another overhyped piece of tech. Let's see if they can actually deliver on that promise. and Premiere powerhouses. Because even limited to CPU AV1 encoding, the M3 Ultra beat a Threadripper 7980X, a chip that consumes more power than this entire box and has twice as many cores. Pretty impressive. It's just worth noting that it doesn't support hardware encode, which is a shame when you look at the incredible performance of Apple's hardware encoder for H.264. Now, another thing that's worth noting is that Apple doesn't have a clear flagship with the Mac Studio anymore.
No clear flagship? That's a bold move, especially for a company that usually loves to flaunt its top-tier products. It's like saying you don't have a favorite child. Everyone knows there's always one that gets the extra cookie. If they're trying to play it cool, it might just confuse potential buyers. Let's see how this plays out in the long run.
Mac Studio anymore. They obviously have one that costs more, the M3 Ultra version, but the M4 Max version may end up outperforming it in some cases. Now, we don't have an M4 Max yet, but we do have an M4 Pro machine, and we found that in cases where single-threaded CPU performance is more important than having a big, beefy GPU or lots of CPU cores, it could end up being the more performant option. Of course, you'll also be limited to a maximum of 64 gigabytes of memory. Now, before we go any further into performance,
here we go, diving into performance. This is where the rubber meets the road. If they can back up all this tech talk with actual results, then we might have something worth the hype. But if it's just more fluff, I'll be rolling my eyes harder than a toad in a rainstorm. Let's see what they've got.
Performance, let's thank this. They actually told me they were working on this a while back.
Now we're getting somewhere. If they've been working on something interesting, I'm all ears. This could be the moment where they reveal something genuinely innovative. Let's see what they've got up their sleeves. Hopefully, it's not just another gimmick.
I didn't know they were guides on their site for how to apply their skins.
Alright, now we're finally getting into the practical side of things. If they've got guides on how to apply these skins, that could actually be useful. It's nice to see a company providing support for their products instead of just slapping a price tag on them. Let's hope the application process is as smooth as they claim.
But I don't give a f**.com. Alright, let's talk a little bit more about the Mac Studio, shall we? I want to fire up some kind of a load and see how loud this thing gets for myself. Let's go with Blender.
Oh, Blender, now we're talking. If this machine can handle some serious rendering without turning into a jet engine, that'll be a solid test of its capabilities. Let's see if it can keep its cool under pressure, or if it'll sound like a toad in a thunderstorm.
Blender, we're gonna do the barbershop render. I'm gonna see if I can hear this thing. Surely it's gotta ramp up. This is CPU mode too. This is with all the CPU cores going, full tilt. I can barely hear it, and I'm pretty much the biggest diva there is when it comes to computer noise, like to the point where I put my computer in a separate room so I don't have to hear it. If I could game on a Mac Studio, I probably wouldn't even bother. To be clear, I can game on a Mac Studio.
Alright, so gaming on a Mac Studio is possible, but it sounds like there's a catch. If it's not the go-to choice for gaming, then what's the point? It's like having a fancy sports car that you can't take out of the garage. Let's see if they can actually make a compelling case for it.
The performance is fine, whether we're looking at games that rely on Rosetta or whether we're looking at games that run natively on Apple Silicon. But what it isn't is a tremendous value, and the compatibility is still a major struggle for the macOS platform compared to Windows or even Linux these days. With that said, I still feel that GPU benchmarks are relevant because they give us some idea of what Apple has improved.
Finally, some relevant talk about GPU benchmarks. This is where we can see if Apple has actually made strides in performance. If they've improved their graphics capabilities, it could make a real difference for users. Let's see if they can back up their claims with some solid numbers.
Improved from generation to generation, and at least when it comes to gaming, it looks like not much. Most of this performance difference compared to the M2 Ultra could be explained by going from 76 to 80 GPU cores in the maximum configuration. But what's curious is that if I wasn't running this in CPU mode, if I was running Blender in GPU mode, it is much faster in GPU Blender rendering. And the same holds true in AI.
Now we're getting to the meat of it. If GPU rendering in Blender and AI tasks are significantly faster, that's a strong point in favor of the Mac Studio. It's all about how effectively it can handle those workloads. If it can deliver real performance gains in practical applications, then it might just justify the price tag after all. Let's see how they back this up.
True in AI. Actually, in AI, performance is up across the board. So depending on the application, it'll use either the neural processor, the GPU, or the CPU, typically in that order in order to get the best performance out of the M3 Ultra SoC. And we found that across the board, the M3 Ultra is much faster than the M2 Ultra in AI. And that's in addition to being able to run much larger models. So this was the main justification that Nick...
Finally, we're getting to the justification for this hefty price tag. If the Theory Ultra can handle larger models and deliver faster performance, that's a solid reason for creators to consider it. It's all about whether those improvements translate into real-world benefits. Let's see how they wrap this up.
And I'm naming him, Nick from the lab gave me for us buying this machine because we actually use our 192 gigabyte M2 Ultra Studio daily to run local LLMs that help with programming for our coders. He says, and he promises me, that this machine will justify itself because we'll be able to run better LLMs. Is that right, Nick?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow, I'm just looking a little closer at those gaming results. This thing f***ing sucks for gaming.
Well, there it is, folks. The harsh truth laid bare. If the Mac Studio is struggling in gaming benchmarks, that's a major red flag for anyone considering it for that purpose. It's like buying a sports car that can't even make it up a hill. If gaming is your thing, you might want to look elsewhere.
This is like on par with a 4060 Ti. The way it kind of keeps up in Blender though is so bizarre to me. Like, yeah, it's slower than a 7980X with an RTX 5090, but like not by that much, you know? Like a 4060 Ti would get crushed by that configuration, and this doesn't. What a strange machine. And boy, will you ever pay for it. The M4 Max configuration starts at $2,000, and the M3 Ultra starts at $4,000.
There it is, the price tag that makes you question your life choices. Starting at $4.00 for the Theory Ultra. That's a hefty sum for a machine that's struggling in the gaming department. If you're not using it for heavy-duty tasks, you might as well be throwing your money into a swamp. It better deliver some serious performance to justify that cost.
Going up as high as about $14,000 if you max out both the RAM, like we did, and the storage, which we did not. A terabyte is fine when you're going to be accessing most of your storage over the network. Oh, with that said, could we maybe try to do a storage upgrade for an LTT? DIY? I don't know if there's a way to do that on this one yet. We'll have to figure that out because, of course, like other Apple Silicon machines, Apple does not officially sanction any kind of storage.
The classic Apple move. No official support for upgrades. It's like buying a fancy car that you can't even change the tires on without voiding the warranty. If they're locking down storage options, it's a big red flag for anyone looking for flexibility. Let's see how they navigate this limitation.
Of storage or memory.
Well, here we are at the end of our overpriced tech escapade. After sifting through the nonsense of the Mac Studio Theory Ultra and its dazzling, yet possibly diabolical, price tag of 10 grand, I can say it delivered exactly what I expected. A heap of justifications that would make a used car salesman blush. The whole thing felt like a masterclass in excuse-making, with tech jargon tossed around like confetti at a parade. Did it meet my expectations from the intro? Oh, you bet your last wireless charger it did. I entered with skepticism. And what did I get? A showcase of how to spend a small fortune on a glorified paperweight. Sure, those performance cores might sound like a thrill to the tech-savvy, but for most of you out there just trying to edit vacation photos, not so much. It's as ridiculous as me trying to leap across my bog on a lily pad. Impressive in theory, catastrophic in practice. So in conclusion, if you've got money to burn and an insatiable need for shiny tech, the Theory Ultra might be your dragon to slay, but for the rest of us, it's just another high-priced way to stare longingly at our credit card statements. Now, let's hope the tech gods have better offerings next time, or I might just start charging folks a toll to cross my forest. If you enjoyed my sarcastic croaking and want to continue the ride through the swamp of consumerism with me, do the usual and hit that subscribe button. Like the video if you want to support a grumpy old toad keeping it real on the internet. Until next time, remember, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, like my ability to jump over the moon.